Keith Getty has played an important role in developing modern hymns for the church. And with Stuart Townsend, he has written In Christ Alone and The Power of the Cross, both which are sung around the world today. Keith is married to singer-songwriter Kristyn Getty, and together they've also collaborated on hymns, songs, musicals, and children's music. Currently, they're touring the United States, introducing their music to new audiences nationwide. And it's great to have both of you with us today. Really enjoyed the worship there, and In Christ Alone, that really is sung around the world today, isn't it? Just want to ask you, growing up in Northern Ireland, how did you begin to incorporate the hymn style of music into modern worship?
Well, I grew up in a Christian home, which was a great blessing, and my parents were both musicians and both Christians. So from my earliest age, they encouraged us to embrace both the faith and music of all kinds. So I was both a child of the modern worship song, which I'm really fond of and use a lot. But I also grew up as a classical musician, studying hymnology, studying classical music, and had a great love for folk music and Irish folk music.
Yeah.
So I guess really the modern hymn that we've kind of been creating, or the reinvention of the hymn that we've been doing, is a mixture of all those influences: classical music, folk music, old hymns, and modern worship songs, to try and really fuse a form of expressing the faith which can be used around the world today. So
yeah. And when it comes to hymns themselves, and classic or contemporary, what do you think they kind of bring to us as we worship? You mentioned that worship isn't just about worship. There's a strong teaching element involved in worship as well.
The strong teaching element is one of the key goals behind the writing, but the other one is to try and write in a style that all generations could sing. You know, we notice increasingly that every group has their own music, and we ask the question, is there a way we could bring people together? And so the particular type of melody that you would tend to write would be more of a folk style.
Yeah, that's right. That means you can arrange them, like for a cathedral choir. That means the Newsboys in Avalon can do their wonderful versions of them. And that means, you know, both youth groups with their rock bands and little small churches of old people with, you know, just a little church organ can use them too. So.
And now, In Christ Alone is the CD, and we just heard the title track there. This took quite some time to put together, and a lot of passion, a lot of sweat, a lot of prayer, a lot of energy brought into this project. What's it take to put something like this together?
Well, many years of writing. You know, Christ Alone was written in 2001, January 2001. It's now 2007, that just came out this year, and so it represents a collection of hymns that would be either most known or most sung as we travel around, the ones that we tend to teach most often, but they've been written and tested in our home churches and tried in different places, and that's sort of the gathering. And also loosely goes through the life of Christ. The songs sort of tell the big story of the faith that's told in the Gospels.
And Keith, with regards to the other projects you've got going on, we mentioned children's music, musicals, and all that.
Yeah, I think we're at the minute, obviously the Christ Alone is the main project, and one of the most interesting offshoots has been being able to develop that almost as an evening in itself. It started by accident. There was an evening service that we were leading worship at, and it turned out we're doing the whole service and we hadn't planned anything. So we put all the songs in order for an evening service for 70 people and piano and voice, and now we're getting to do that. We're beginning to develop that with orchestras and in concert halls and with speakers, and really bringing both the theology of the death and resurrection and birth of Christ, but the reality of his life, his actions and his teachings, and bringing all that together. And then, as you mentioned, with the children's, we've written a little children's project as well called Songs That Jesus Said, which is almost like it's almost become like a children's companion to it for children to use. So.
Now, growing up in Northern Ireland, just when I think of Northern Ireland from a historical context, think of, you know, the civil unrest and the troubles and the kind of, you know, the Catholic and Protestant fighting across the walls there. But what kind of influence did that have on you growing up, and what do you think it kind of brought into your gifting of your expression of faith?
First of all, I tend to look at the positive sides, you know, and we were brought up in Christian homes that were passionate about faith and Christ and expressing his praise and witness of him. And so that is the overwhelming thing. My parents were not involved in what you would call the socio-political dimension, and they discouraged us ever to be involved in that.
Well, their family saved us from that sort of.
We always, our families both went on holidays each summer when all the unrest was happening. So we were in France or England or down in the south of Ireland somewhere on holidays, and so that we're kept from that. And also being a musician, that was the one great crossover. And that's what we find in life at every level of life, is that music is a great blending of people. So I played in orchestras, and so we, a lot of our social friends from that I was from a Protestant background, a lot of them are from a Catholic background. So we were
music
saved.
kind of bridged the gap.
Yeah, so I think we were saved from a lot of that. So
yeah. Hey, Kristyn, any?
Well, that'd be the same. My dad's a pastor in Northern Ireland, and one of the things he always said to me was not to define myself by a particular side or by a name or a label, but to be a Christian. And unfortunately, in Northern Ireland, you do grow up in the government sort of tries to segregate you and put you in this school and you live in this area, and so it is quite hard to grow up and be in one particular area and not know maybe as much as you could have known the other side for such a silly thing as the Protestant Catholic thing. But I think that in recent years it's changing so much, and people even of our generation have been involved in all sorts of projects like the music one to bring us together, and so I think Northern Ireland is a place of change and a lot of hope there as well.
Wonderful. Well, the project is great, In Christ Alone, and if you'd like more information, it's www.gettymusic.com.